a nice crowd you all here today. Welcome to Sumter Electric's 80th annual meeting, and thanks to each and every one of you for coming this morning. At this time, I will call the annual meeting to order and ask our Vice President of Corporate Communications and Energy Services, Catherine Gloria, to lead us with the invocation, the Pledge of Allegiance, and various introductions. Everyone, please rise. Catherine?
Thank you so much. Our stand time will be a little bit longer today. We're going to ask the blessing together. The color guard will enter. We'll pledge allegiance together, and then we'll sing the anthem together. So thank you for standing. Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together today. We're grateful to be part of a company that embraces fellowship among our employees, our members, and our guests. We ask that you bless this meeting, the refreshments served, and the caring hands that prepared it this morning. If there are those among us who are not well, we ask that you ease their pain and uplift their spirits. And watch over us as we travel home today. Please keep us safe. Amen. I'd like to welcome the Color Guard. They are from Inverness, VFW 4337. They are led by Honor Guard Commander Don Saylor. And they're coming in right over here. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now, Tim Wallace, our Meter Reading Services Manager, is on the stage and will lead us in the national anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hail at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous sight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you so much, Tim. Will you remain standing for the color guard exit, please? Let's give another big hand to VFW 4337. And please be seated. Thank you so much. Now I'd like to introduce you to the Board of Trustees on the stage. We have District 5 Trustee and Board President, Mr. Ray Vick, and his guest, Marilyn Coppolino. District 9 Trustee and Board Vice President, Mr. Jerry Hatfield. District 7 Trustee and Secretary Treasurer, Rob Henyon, and his wife, Shirley. District 1 Trustee, Scott Boyette, and his wife, Rebecca. District 2 Trustee, Dillard Boyette. District 3 trustee Richard Bellis and his wife Sally. District 4 trustee Richard Dennison and his wife Suzanne. District 8 trustee Mr. Bill James. And now I'd like to introduce you to our CEO, Mr. Jim Duncan. His wife Connie is here with us today, and they just celebrated a 50th anniversary. Our corporate attorney, Mr. Lewis Stone, is here with us this morning. And Ms. Nora Brown, Seco's Senior Executive Assistant, and her husband, Greg Evans, are here. We have a number of special guests who have traveled far and wide, but I understand there are more than 5,000 special guests here today, so thank you so much for coming. We have a former trustee here with us today, Mr. Kenneth Jessup. Another very special guest who will help us with the prize drawing today because of his official title. He is a CPA and our auditor with Purvis Gray, Mr. Tim Westgate. Mr. Kevin Shealy is here today with Ocala Marion Chamber and Economic Partnership. We have a large contingent from our wholesale power provider, Seminole Electric Cooperative, Inc. And Lisa Johnson, CEO and General Manager, is here today. Phoebe Broughton, her Senior Executive Assistant. Mr. Mike Ward, Director of System Operations. Joe Fuller, Vice President and Chief Financial Officer. Ryan Hart, Director of Communications and Energy Policy. Lee Holmes, Senior Communications Representative. Ms. Trudy Novak, VP of Member Services and External Affairs. And lastly, with Seminole, Mr. Nick McCaig, Communications Representative. We have some guests from the legislative sector. Congressman Daniel Webster is here today with his wife Sandy. Florida State Senator Denise Grimsley, who is running for Ag Commissioner, is here with us today. Ms. Lisa Marshall, Regional Director for Senator Nelson, is here. And I have a few vendors to thank that'll go quickly. Margot Rochelle and Rodeo Drive, the band, let's give them a big hand. And I'll run down the list of vendors really quickly, just save your applause to the end. You probably interacted with them in the tent today. Mike Scott Plumbing, Munn's Sales and Service, Solar Trek, Sunbusters Solar Screens, Galaxy Home Solutions, Lowe's, Window World of Florida, Meter Treater, and again, the VFW of 4337. And that is our list of special guests today. Thank you. I'd like to ask Mr. Vick to join us again at the podium.
Thank you so much, Catherine. The first order of business is the appointment of a recording secretary for this 80th annual meeting. I'd like to appoint Nora Brown to the position of recording secretary if there's no objections. Seeing none, Nora will be our recording secretary. At this time, I would normally ask that registration close, but I'm not going to do that today because I understand people are still trying to get in. So we're going to wait and do that later. I now call on Rob Henyon, Secretary and Treasurer, for the determination of a quorum, certification, and approval of the 2017 annual meeting minutes. Rob?
Good morning. Hey, you all did it. There you go. I certify that the applications for memberships received prior to the notice of the annual meeting have been in accordance with the written bylaws and duly acted upon by the Board of Trustees, and I know you all needed to know that. The number of registered members here is 3,067, although there might be a couple updates later. And let's see, we have 4,929 total, and that's probably being updated later. Thank you.
I want to say thank you for joining us on this beautiful spring day. It is so pretty. As members of the cooperative, the annual meeting is for you. It allows you an opportunity to mingle with fellow members, spend a little time with the Board of Trustees and our CEO, and hear about your cooperative. The board appreciates the work our employees do to make our annual meeting a success. These employees are a dedicated part of the cooperative. Their combined efforts earned SECO a third J.D. Power Award to boot. I certainly appreciate that. I know the employees do. I know that I want to say that their dedication to excellence means so much to the board. We're so thankful for each and every one of the employees, and thank you so much. I'm proud to say that Sumter Electric, doing business at SECO Energy, is now in our 80th year. SECO is an electrical distribution co-op currently serving homes, businesses, and farms in parts of 7 counties across Central Florida. The power SECO distributes comes from Seminole Electric, the dog's part of the program too. Seminole Electric, a generation and transmission cooperative. Seminole is owned by 9 Florida electric distribution co-ops with 2 650-megawatt coal-fired plants in Palatka. In addition, Seminole has a Medulla generation station is located on the Hardy-Polk County line. The combined cycle facilities has 810 megawatts of natural gas-fired capacity. All of Seminole's plants have state-of-the-art pollution control equipment, and it has been invested well over $500 million in this technology in recent years. SECO is owned by you, its members, not by stockholders like investor-owned utility power companies. You, the members, get the benefits. One of the benefits is the return of capital credits annually. Capital credits are paid to you with board approval as a credit on your electric bills each November. In 2015, SECO returned $4.6 million. In 2016, SECO returned $5.1 million. And in 2017, SECO returned $5.4 million. SECO's 9-member Board of Trustees is elected by you. The board sets the policies, approves the budget, and guides your cooperative. The Chief Executive Office, Jim Duncan, along with his senior staff, manages your cooperative under these policies. At the end of February, your cooperative had over 201,000 active electric services in place and over 12,000 300 miles of energized line. In the very early years, the cooperative needed 3 members to the mile to provide service. Now we have over 16 members per mile. I'm happy to report at 2017 year-end, SECO had increased its investment in total utility plant and equipment to $839 million. And it had member equity of almost $253 million, or 31.7% of assets. Your cooperative believes that balancing energy service, environment needs, and community involvement are all very important. For many years, your cooperative has supported the Live Start programs of our young citizens. We also award scholarships each year to high school seniors within our service area. I especially want to thank all of our employees who volunteer time and donate money and support many charitable and community programs. I also want to mention to you a great SECO program called Pennies from Heaven. This program rounds up your electric bill to the next dollar and uses these pennies to help members in need of assistance. In 2017, you donated pennies for assistance to members and worthy community causes total over $48,000. Imagine how much good we could do if all of our members and every one of you, of our 2,000 plus members, joined Pennies from Heaven. This is a volunteer program. Only you can decide if you want to be part of something larger or greater than yourself. I urge you all to join this very worthwhile, rewarding program. It simply requires a visit to our website, a phone call, or an email, or you can sign up the next time you come in to pay your bill. I want to say thank you so much for allowing me to speak to you this morning, and remember, we all own the cooperative. Thank you so much. I'd now like to introduce you to our CEO, Jim Duncan. Jim?
Thank you, Mr. Vick. Wow, we had a party and a few people showed up. I don't think we have to put a proof of mailing of the notice out there because the post office must have been working. I think you got it. 80 years we've been doing this, and no, I haven't been here for all 80 of them, but that's a line I'm supposed to use later. So happy you're here. A lot of work goes into this, as you can imagine. It wouldn't be much fun to do all this and have a bunch of empty chairs out there. So happy you're here. Hope you have a great day. That's our total goal, is to make you have a good morning. We call it the 80th, the official name is the 80th annual meeting of the membership of Sumter Electric Cooperative, Inc. For years, I have been calling it Saturday Morning Live with a few thousand of our favorite friends. So for us, that's what it is. We have a great time doing this. We're happy you're here. So again, thank you for being here. So some of you were captured earlier by our Facebook characters. I know you were with them. If you can see, I got caught in that web a little earlier. Our close friends, Wally Water Heater, LED Lucy, and Solar Sam. Don't try to say those things fast. It doesn't work really well. But thank you all for being a good sport about it. And thank you to our communications team who go out of their way trying to make this event fun for you, enjoyable for you, do new and special things with Facebook and the other social media things that I don't know an awful lot about, although they're dragging me into it. Now, my fear is that if this trend continues, I'm going to have to be upgraded to Jim Duncan 2.0. Now, Connie probably likes that because that's a lot skinnier than I am. So, you know, that goes to show I'll do anything just to have fun. But anyway, we're trying to be technologically savvy for all of you, and I guess that's what's next. And I'm waiting. So, we upgraded the number of biscuits this year. I hope everyone who wanted one got one. Because we have learned the hard way that the power of the biscuit is critical. And last year we ran out, and that was not a happy thing. So our caterer beefed up the number, and so hopefully we had plenty. We will do a survey after the meeting. Tell us what you like, what you didn't like, whatever we can do to make it better. Traffic flow is a challenge. This is a growing event. And our parking capacity is probably at capacity this morning. So we're going to be looking for some other possibilities. Just think about it. If we came up with some off-site parking and some very nice shuttle buses, we may need to do that. We tried it this morning from across 301. We filled that lot up in a hurry. So tell us what you think when we do the survey. Even if some things you didn't like, tell us about it and let us know. So we will survey to see how we did. So 2018, special year. 80 years of history behind this cooperative. And like I said earlier, I haven't been here all 80, but I have been here almost half of them, 39 of those. And Ms. Gloria told you earlier that Connie and I, last November, celebrated 50 years of marriage. We got married on Thanksgiving Day. Thanksgiving Day 50 years ago, and I've been giving thanks ever since. I'll get killed when I get home, but whatever. So, 39 years. I came here in mid-'79 as the finance director. We didn't call it chief financial officer back then, but essentially that's what it was. When I came here, we were just under 37,000 total members. My first meeting as CEO was 1991. I was a bit younger, my hair was darker, I had more of it, but 1991, 66,000 members, 44% increase. In 1999, we reached the 100,000 member milestone, and then last year, about November, we hit 200,000. That's amazing, 200,000 for an electric cooperative. And it just keeps getting better. As Mr. Vick said, we're at 201,000 already. So our slogan is 200,000 strong, 80 years in the making. So it's been a ride. I've been doing this 39 years. I know some of you, this is your first annual meeting. So can I see a show of hands of the first-time attendees? Wow. So I have to say, 80 years, what took you so long? Was it something we said or did? I don't know. So, how about those of you who have been SECO members for 20 years or longer? Great, thank you very much. How about 50 or more? Thank you, sir. I'm not sure what I did, but whatever. We've prizes falling. Is there anyone here, there were a couple last year, who were members in 1938 when this cooperative was formed? Anyone? I don't see anyone. If there is, we have a small gift for them, so please keep your hand up. If not, I guess those older folks are smarter than we are and stayed in bed this morning. So regardless, thank you all for being here. Now, annual meetings in 1938 were a little different. The crowd was encouraged to bring pets, and there was plenty of parking. And we had plenty of refreshments. So regardless of how long you've been on our system, we appreciate every one of you. We hope we give you the service that you enjoy and that you deserve, and we're trying very hard to do that. So again, thank you all. Okay. Like you, I loved the band's rendition of God Bless the USA. We have a tradition now, which I think is a critical part of our meeting, recognizing the importance of our military. I do this in the order that the Department of Defense says each branch was formed to try to stay out of political trouble. Otherwise, I'd have the Marines first, but that's another topic. The Department of Defense says the National Guard is the oldest branch of our military. So if you are serving or did serve in the Army or Air National Guard, please stand up. Thank you. Next is the United States Army. So if you did or are serving in the Army, please stand. As much as it pains me to say so, the Department of Defense says the Navy came next. The Marine Corps, as you all know, is a part of the Navy. We like to say it's the men's department, but that's another topic for another time. But that aside, I'm going to get in trouble up here. The raw fruit's going to start flying. If you were or are in the Navy, please stand to be recognized. I'd love to just keep hearing them, wouldn't you? There is an auxiliary portion of the Navy that perhaps doesn't get the recognition it should. That's a merchant marine. So if you were or are a member of that branch, please stand. And now, the Marine Corps. If you were or are a member of the Corps, Semper Fi, please stand. Thank you again. The Coast Guard, a very valuable part of our military. If you are or were a member of the Coast Guard, please stand. Thank you again. And last but not least, the Air Force was formed in 1947. We had to wait until we had some planes to have an Air Force. So, if you are or were in the U.S. Air Force, please stand. So thank all of you who stood for your past and present service in defending this great country. Another group that protects us a little closer to home, all of our first responders. If you are active or retired law enforcement, corrections officer, firefighter, dispatcher, or EMS personnel, please stand. Thank you all for what you do to keep us all safe in very, very trying times. You met them earlier, but I would like to again pay tribute to your board, my bosses. So these gentlemen put a lot of time in on your behalf. They approve our policies, our budgets, our major expenditures, all of those things. So if you could give them another round of applause, please. And now on a more somber note, we lost a good friend, former employee, former board member, Mr. W.L. Bud Hodges, passed away on November 12th of last year. He was employed for 22 years, a trustee from 1980 to 2004. Had a lot to do with the success we enjoyed during that time. He's survived by his wife, Walita, who's with us, and Walita, wish you the best. Also, I'd like to quickly recognize, you've met the board, you see me, we have an outstanding senior staff. So I'd like just quickly to go through them. Ben Brickhouse is our Vice President of Engineering. Catherine Gloria, our VP of Corporate Communications, who you met earlier. Gene Kanakovsky is our Chief Financial Officer. He keeps us all straight with the dollars. John LaSelva, VP of Operations. He keeps the power on for you. That's his job. Keeps the power on. Greg Morrell, VP of Corporate Services and HR. And of course, Nora Brown, Senior Executive Assistant, keeps me straight, keeps the board straight. She has the toughest job of all. So if you will, please give those folks a hand. And I know Mr. Vick had them recognized, but we have, without question, the greatest group of employees anywhere in the United States. So they're the best of the best. They're great at what they do. They do all of this, but then they also keep your power on 24/7. So if you would recognize them one more time, please. Also, you met Seminole folks earlier. I want to give a special shout out to them, to Lisa Johnson, CEO, who leads one of the finest professional teams I've ever had the privilege of working with. They are constantly looking at what they can do to make your lives better through the cost of electricity, the availability of electricity. She became CEO in 2013 and has brought such a tremendous positive change to Seminole. It's incredible. Just very, very happy with all that she's done. Seminole, with our membership and the other 8 electric cooperatives, provides service to about 1.6 to 1.8 million people throughout Florida. So what they do is quite critical. They are in the, hopefully, if the PSC cooperates, in the final stages. I'm going to the dogs. In the final stages of getting state approval for a very, very well-designed, well-thought-out future power supply plan that involves shutting down one of our 2 coal-fired plants, adding 2 additional gas-fired plants, adding additional purchased solar capacity, all of those things intended to provide an environmentally friendly, reliable, cost-effective electric system. So Lisa and your team, thank you all very much for what you do. And so, I have a thick notebook, but the type is really, really big. So, as Mr. Vick mentioned, we were honored to receive last year our third consecutive J.D. Power Award for Outstanding Customer Satisfaction. That comes from you. We can't give ourselves those awards. We would if we could, but we can't. So they survey, and the results they tabulate, and for 3 years in a row, we have been awarded the highest score within our respective category. The first year, 2015, we were in the mid-size South group, had the highest score there. Then they combined all the cooperatives into one group because the other companies were tired of the co-ops winning too much. So they put all the co-ops together. So in 16 and 17, we had the highest score in that category. But what we also have is the fact that in each of those 3 years, our score was higher than any other utility surveyed. So even though we were in one category, we beat them all. And it's because of your recognition. Another survey that we do is called the American Customer Satisfaction Index, or ACSI for short. We do that annually. It's part of our survey. Last year, our score was 88, which in our industry is extremely high. I'm very proud of that. By comparison, all the cooperatives in the nation averaged 78. All of the municipal and investor-owned utilities averaged 75 and 72, respectively. So, pretty nice gap there. Our scores were higher than Target and Walmart, who were at 79 and 72, respectively. And we were even higher than Amazon. Amazon's score was 86. We were 88. I love Amazon. I think they do a great job. But I also don't mind beating their butts score-wise either. So that wasn't very professional, was it? I scratched that. We also, if you don't brag about yourself, who will? So we also were very proud to receive some awards in Marion County last year. In the Ocala Banners Reader's Choice Awards, we were voted best of the best among utilities. So if you came here from Marion County and voted for us, thank you very much. We also received from the United Way in Marion County a 2017 Outstanding Partner Award. So all of those things are gratifying. They reflect what our employees are doing, and we're certainly proud of that. Also here in Sumter County, the Sumter County Chamber of Commerce recognized us as the Outstanding Large Business of the Year for 2017. So, this is home base for us. We serve parts of 7 counties, but it's nice to be recognized at home where your headquarters is located. So we appreciated that as well. We have grown into a rather large regional utility, away from the roots of 1938 when we were very, very localized here in Sumter County. That's a picture of our service territory. Our headquarters, of course, is here, but we serve in parts of 6 other counties, so we are fairly widespread. Our employees live in all of those counties, so we're happy to be part of the home team. I don't have to tell you that last year had its share of challenges. Had this lady named Irma that came through the area, probably the toughest hurricane we have ever dealt with, devastating. For those of you who were here in 2004, you'll remember we had 3 back-to-back-to-back, Charlie, Francis, and Jean. But even with all of that, the damage from Irma was much more widespread. Irma was a terrifying hurricane. At times, it was 400 miles wide, had winds of 185 miles an hour. It stayed a 3-day category, 3 days as a Category 5 before it made Florida landfall. When Irma came into our territory, and it basically came right across our territory. It was a Category 2 and Category 3. Category 2 is 96 to 110 miles an hour. Category 3 is 111 to 129. And I can tell you, either of those speeds is pretty frightening when you're out there trying to see what's falling down. And a lot of stuff did. We have 197 feeders throughout our system. At one point, 104 of those were without service. We cannot begin restoring service until the winds drop below 35 miles an hour. It's a safety thing. That is not a Seco truck. Not a Seco truck. And I'm not sure whose truck it is, but because of having the buckets in the air, you cannot put the bucket up with 35 mile an hour winds. So we had to wait until the wind had subsided. In the wee hours of Monday morning, which I believe happened to be September the 11th, a date with a lot of other significance, we had, out of our 200,000 members, 140,000 of you did not have power. That's not a happy thing for anyone in our business, but that was the fact. So we started trying to reserve contractors while Irma was still over Cuba. But because of the uncertain track, no Florida company would release anyone because they knew they were going to need them. States to our north wouldn't release because the path was so erratic, they weren't sure where it might go either. So we basically, and it doesn't show real well on the map, but we actually got assistance from 13 states, some as far away as Colorado, the Northeast, anywhere we could find line workers and tree workers, we had them headed toward Florida. In the end, we actually got a few here in Florida, but not a lot. Irma was devastating throughout the state. It began in South Florida. The governor wisely issued mandatory evacuation. The bad news is all those folks headed toward Central Florida. So we had 12 million people in the state without power, headed our way, buying up every bottle of water, every gallon of gas, every bite of food, every hotel room they could find. So those are all critical to a utility that's trying to restore power. So it was challenging, but our folks came through, really did a phenomenal job. Anytime there is a major storm event, you want to know, how do they decide who gets restored first? And I understand those questions. There is a specific priority. Our plan is on file with the governmental agencies. We follow it. The order is the transmission system, which is critical, substations, then feeders with hospitals, shelters, schools, and government agencies. Those are first. Then, and this one might surprise you, but I hope the logic makes sense, we go to feeders that have things like a Publix, a Walmart, a Home Depot, places that you need access to for food, water, items to repair damage to your home. So those are next. Then we go to feeders that have the largest number of people on them. We're trying to get as many back on as we can, as quickly as we can. Then we go to the smaller feeders. And then we go to the laterals off of those feeders. Unfortunately, and no one wants to be last, but individual home outages are last. If it's just your home, it's going to be toward the end. And nobody likes it, but that is the way that we have to work. It became apparent, because of the magnitude of this storm, that we were having a difficult time explaining to you when we likely would get to your part of our system. So our folks came up with a very interactive, mobile-friendly map that you could enter your address, and it would tell you if we would be working in your neighborhood the next day. Every night around midnight to 1 a.m., we would load that system with the plan for the next day. So if you put your address in and we were going to be there, it was the happy dance. If you put your address and nothing happened, it was, oh dear, I got at least one more day to go. But that turned out to be probably the most effective tool we had during that major event for letting you know when we would try to get to your location. A lot of things helped, even though that hurricane was devastating. A lot of things we've been doing helped tremendously. We have a very aggressive pole inspection and pole replacement program here at Seco. We go out, we have professionals look at poles. If they appear to be structurally unsound, we replace them. It's not cheap, but it pays dividends. On our total system, we have 138,000 utility poles. During Irma, we lost 352, 1/4%, and that was primarily due to trees taking them down. So the poles stayed up. The conductor came down again because of trees, but very pleased with how well the pole, that part of the system held up. We spend a lot of your money on pole replacement and on vegetation management because it does pay off. If we can keep the trees out of the right-of-way, it makes a huge difference in how little we lose during a major storm. So that's why we do what we do. Our challenge is, in most places, we have a 15-foot wide right-of-way. A lot of the trees on the outside are 60, 80, 100 feet tall. If they fall, they are still going to come into our system. We look at those, we talk to the owner. If that person will allow us to take that tree down, we do. And as that video in the beginning said, we have taken quite a few down. Irma was a challenge, as I've said, but we worked through it very well. We waited till the winds stopped below 35 miles an hour. So on Monday, and we didn't start till probably 2 or so in the afternoon, we actually got 27,000 people back in service on that Monday. We put our crews and our visiting crews on a round-the-clock schedule, staggered. We don't want anyone working 24 hours. That's not safe. But we take the crews, divide them into shifts so that we do have coverage all the way around the clock. So by Wednesday evening, we had 48,000 members back. By the end of the day on Friday, 87% were restored. And then on Sunday, 99.9. We had a few that had flooding. We just simply couldn't get there. But overall, for the damage we incurred and the number of people out, the 6.5-day outage for the ones who were on the very end of it, from our perspective, wasn't bad. From your perspective, if you were at the 6.5 day, it was horrible. We understand that. But our employees worked hard. They try their best to keep you on. So we worked through it under a lot of challenges, fuel, food, all of that. Again, recognizing the challenge of communicating outage information, we are working hard on a new Storm Center outage map. That will allow you to report an outage by email, text, voice, whatever. We ask if we can call you back when we think the service has been restored. The system will give you the option of saying, don't call me at 2 a.m. to tell me my power's back on. I'll wait till morning to find out. So that'll give you that option if you don't really want to be troubled at any hour of the night. We'll communicate with you as you move ahead how we're doing. We're a growing cooperative, 201,000 and growing strong. We added 4,424 new services last year, up about 38%, 39% from the year before. We did 1,743, or 41% of those, here in Sumter County. A lot of that was in the villages. Connie and I happened to be one of those. We actually moved into the village of Finney early this year. So out of that 1,743, one of those is us. So we're happy, very happy to be here. But we also have growth in Lake County, particularly South Lake County, 1,555 new services there, about 37%, and another 837, or 19% in Marion County. So with all that growth, it might surprise you to know that you collectively actually consumed less kilowatt hours in 2017 than you did in 2016. This year, collectively, we all used 3.2 billion kilowatt hours, down about 6 million hours from the year before. That's a challenge for us. We're finding that new members, the new homes, are much more energy efficient, in some cases smaller. Other members are putting in energy efficient lighting, appliances, heat pumps, etc. All of those things are great for the environment. They're a bit challenging for the utility, though, that has to install and support and upgrade that $839 million infrastructure. So, full disclosure, we're looking hard at the relationship between our customer charge and our energy charge. And nothing to announce, but we are looking at how those relate because we have to remain financially stable. New topic, solar. We are working diligently with anyone who wants to put solar on the rooftop or anywhere else on their property to try to integrate that into our system. We have over 700 homes with solar currently, and the number is growing almost daily. There is an agreement that the member signs and I sign, and I would suspect I'm probably signing 5 to 10 of those a week. So that number is continuing to get larger. We have folks in our Energy Services Department. If you are thinking about solar, they'll be happy to come out and meet with you. We are not going to try to talk you out of it. We'll look at the logistics, the layout of your home, how it faces the sun. If it's a good fit for solar, we'll tell you. If it's a bad fit, we'll tell you. But you can still make the decision. We do purchase whatever excess energy a solar provider has. We purchase that, and we treat that as a small wholesale provider. We buy the bulk of our power from Seminole, and we have an average rate that we pay. Our position is we will pay to a solar producer exactly what we were paying to Seminole for wholesale power. It seems fair to both the solar owner and to the non-owner. Our total objective is to not subsidize either side of that equation. Solar people would like to get more for their output. People without it probably wants them to get less. So we're trying to pay exactly what we pay for the wholesale power. And I hope it's working. I think it's fair. You'll be happy to know that this is my final topic. In your gift bag is a booklet that talks about proposed bylaw changes that we would like to make to 4 of our 12 bylaws. Our last bylaw revision was in 2003, and we really need to make additional changes, but we're going to save those for next year, and I'll tell you why when I get to the last change for this year. But you may or may not want to pull out the booklet. That's totally up to you. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. Page 9 is a revision to Article 3. What this does is provide additional time for someone who wants to run for our board to let us know of their desire to run. That's as simple as that. It extends the time frame under which they can apply. Article 7 appears on page 14. It clarifies and makes our bylaws totally consistent with Florida law with regard to the apportionment of excess revenues. It affirms that the responsibility for determining the manner, method, timing of general and special capital credit retirements rests with the Board of Trustees, as it should. It also states that the retirements are consistent with sound business practices and in line with the cooperative's financial stability. Article 11 is on page 19. It requires that any claims related to the allocation of excess revenues or retirement of patronage capital be settled through individual arbitration. This prevents frivolous lawsuits and protects the co-op from exorbitant legal costs. Some of our fellow cooperatives have had lawsuits, class action, and they've spent literally hundreds of thousands of dollars defending having done nothing wrong. All those cases to date have been settled in the favor of the cooperative, but they still spent all those dollars. So the arbitration allows us to deal one-on-one with a member who has a complaint. And then the final one is on page 19. This bylaw allows us to provide proposed changes in bylaws electronically instead of having to send a hard copy to 201,000 members. We looked at that this year. The printing and postage to have done all of that would probably have exceeded $250,000. Not exactly a good use of resources, would be killing an awful lot of trees for no good reason. So this will allow us to give you notice of our intent, but we will have hard copies available at any office. You can pick them up, or we will mail them to you on request, but we won't print 201,000 of those documents. So that's why we saved the other cleanup changes to the bylaws for next year. They're more like getting the proper gender, all the tenses, etc. So those will probably come next year. So that's pretty much a summary, excuse me, of the four. And in your booklet, or on your booklet, there's one of these, there's a red one. I'd just as soon you not use the red one, but I am officially asking for your approval, and I will be inviting Mr. Stone to the podium to conduct the vote on the bylaw changes. But now that I'm a member, I will be voting in favor of the proposed amendments because I think they are good for the cooperative. So that completes my comments for the morning. It is always a pleasure to address you all. You're a fun crowd. You really make this worthwhile. So thank you all for being here, and I'll get out of the way and let Mr. Stone conduct business. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Duncan is about 6 inches taller than I am, so I'll lower this. The first thing I would like to do on behalf of Mr. Henyon, who is our Secretary-Treasurer, he has instructed me to inform you that he certifies that between the dates of February 8th, 2018 and March 9, 2018, he mailed to each member of the cooperative with their electric bills a notice of the annual member meeting to be held today, March 24th, and he put that in the United States mail. Secondly, on behalf of Mr. Henyon, it is time to approve the minutes. I have 6 pages of single-space typed minutes that I can read to you, or I would greatly appreciate a motion to waive the minutes, reading of the minutes and approve them. I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. God bless you one and all. As President Vick said earlier, we were still having people come in because of the enormous crowd that we have, which is awesome. And so we didn't want to close the registration until everybody had a chance to come in. At this point, we think that we have reached that, and so on behalf of Mr. Vick, I would like to close registration at this time. I'm happy to tell you that we have 3,133 members present and a total with guests of 5,037. So great crowd, and thank you so much. Now, while Mr. Duncan said earlier that you didn't need to get out your packets, I'd like you to get out your packets now, because in your packets you have the cards that were mentioned before. You've got a green card, which will be a vote in favor of bylaw changes, and you have a red card that would be a vote opposing bylaw changes. So I'm going to give you just a moment to get that. I will tell you that I have a motion made by Member and Board President Ray Vick to approve the recommendation of the Board of Trustees revisions to Article 3, Article 7, Article 11, and Article 12 of the bylaws. And I have a second to that motion from Member and Board Vice President Jerry Hatfield. Mr. Duncan, I think, has done a good job of explaining the proposed changes which your board unanimously recommends to you. They've previously been sent to you for your review and are again in your packets today. Very briefly, because Mr. Duncan's already done this, Article 3 simply extends the time for you as members to let the co-op know if you want to run for a trustee position. The Article 7 is an amendment to more clearly mirror the Florida statutes with regard to excess revenues and capital credits. And again, Article 19 requires that claims regarding allocation of excess revenues and capital credits be settled through the arbitration process. Mr. Duncan is correct when he tells you that there have been any number of lawsuits filed nationwide against cooperatives seeking to have charges against the application of capital credits. Virtually none of these have had any success whatsoever, but it has cost the co-ops hundreds of thousands, probably collectively millions of dollars in attorney's fees to defend these things. So again, this is something that is intended to save your revenues for you. Article 12 is the amendment that is intended to save money by allowing us to send proposed other bylaw changes to you electronically. And as Mr. Duncan said, it's probably $250,000 and rising to send all of these out in the mail to you. With all that said, I think we have employees who can assist you. Is there discussion on any of these motions? Is there anyone that would like to speak as to these motions? We have someone over here. We can get a microphone to you. Oh, you can't hear me? Oh, I'm very sorry. I'm not going to start over. Is there discussion? And I don't see any. I'm looking carefully. Oh, we have someone back in the sunshine section. Ma'am, they'll bring you a microphone. We can't hear you.
I think someone just answered it, but what about people who aren't online, particularly like older folk?
It is my understanding that bylaws will be notified that we're having bylaw changes in the normal way, and then those bylaws can be either electronically notified or they'll be available at the district offices. And it'll also be in Seco News that everyone gets.
It'll be with the bill that says you can go find this out.
And we will certainly give you information that will allow you to find them. Yes, ma'am. Do we have another? There's someone over here to my left.
Hi, my wife and I live up in Marion County and Pine Run area, and we just want to say that we are forever thankful to Seco and all the members of the board, the corporate officers, for the wonderful job they've been doing. And with that, I move we close to take a vote on the bylaws.
I don't see any other. I'm going to take one more in the back, if there's one more in the back. I'll take this one more and close.
Why can't we vote on each individual article change?
It's possible to do that, but it would take longer, and I think the consensus is that they pass as one. With that, if you've got your cards, all those in favor of the passage, please raise the green. All those opposed, please raise the red. The green has it. You have passed your bylaw changes. The board thanks you. It is also my pleasure this time of year to give you the results of the elections. As you know, your bylaws provide that you have 9 trustees, that they are elected every 3 years for 3-year terms. So there's 3 elected each year. This year, Mr. Robin Hennion of District Number 7, Mr. William W. James Jr. of District 8, and Jerry Hatfield of District 9 were all elected trustees. With that, is there any other old or new business that should be discussed? I see none. Thank you all very much.
All right, we'd like to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second? We are adjourned.